Hi all, welcome to Cine's classroom. I'm Cine Madhavan. In today's class, I'm going to discuss with you the content or clauses of Memorandum of Association. Before moving into the topic, I'd like to recall whatever we have learned in the previous class. In the previous class, we discussed the Memorandum of Association, the meaning of Memorandum of Association. So legally, Memorandum of Association is a document that is being formed by the company for the first time. Otherwise, which is already been created and need to be altered from time to time. Is it clear? So, Memorandum of Association or memorandum is Memorandum of Association that is originally formed by the company or which is being altered from time to time. For the first time, they might be creating such a document. Otherwise, they have already created. It is a registered company and they want to alter it according to the requirement of the previous company's law or the present company's law or according to the requirement of the company. That is alteration of the contents of Memorandum of Association. Such a document is also regarded as Memorandum of Association. Is it clear? So legally, memorandum means Memorandum of Association that is originally formed by the company or which is being altered from time to time. Now coming to the meaning of Memorandum of Association, it is a prime document or what you call it as a supreme document or a principal document that speaks to the public about the objects of the company, the powers of the company, as well as the scope of operation of the company. So it is a supreme document that gives the entire information about the company. That is, what is the objectives of the company, what is the name of the company, what is the liability of the company. And these all are together known as the contents of memorandum. So Memorandum of Association is nothing but a document, a principal document that gives us information regarding the powers, the objects and scope of operation of a company. And this particular document contains different content and all this content forms this document. And that content, also known as the clauses of memorandum, will be discussed in the present session. As specified earlier, Memorandum of Association is a principle as well as an important document that need to be framed by the proposed company with the ROC to get the company registered. So it's a prime document or a supreme document or a principal document. And what does this document contains? It contains some contents. And that contents are also known as the clauses of memorandum. So in the present session, we are discussing in brief what are the contents or clauses of Memorandum of Association. So this particular principal document contains different types of contents. And all these contents will form this document known as Memorandum of Association. There are 7 contents or 7 clauses of Memorandum of Association, and you have to remember it in a sequence, okay? The first one is name clause. It is very easy to remember. Name clause, that is the name of the company. The second clause is all about the registered office of the company, that is where the company is situated. And the third one is the object of the company. So what is the purpose for starting such a business? What is the purpose of the mere existence of the business? What is the objectives to be satisfied for which the company is formed? That will be specified in the third clause, that is the object clause. The fourth one is liability clause. That is whether the company's members are limited liability people or there are unlimited liability, whether it is limited by shares or limited by guarantee, that need to be specified. Now the fifth clause speaks about the capital with which the company is registered. Then the sixth one is association clause or subscription clause. That is the number of people who are subscribed towards the memorandum of association or the people who have come together to form the company. A declaration will be given by these subscribers. And the seventh clause is all about nominee clause or what you call it as the successor clause. And this particular clause is meant only for one-person company. So altogether, we are having 7 clause, name clause, registered office clause, object clause, liability clause, capital clause, association or subscription clause, and the last one is successor or nominee clause. The Memorandum of Association of every company consists of 6 clauses or 6 contents. But as you know, I have specified 7 clauses or 7 content. It is because in the case of an OPC, that is one person company, one more clause get added, and that is the nominee clause or successor clause. That is why I have specified there are 7 clauses. But on a general basis, there are only 6 clauses. And the 6th clause will be that of subscription clause. With that declaration, the Memorandum of Association gets concluded. Okay, so generally there are only 6 clauses or 6 content. If the company to be formed is a one-person company, then one more clause will be added, and that is the successor clause or nominee clause. Now I will give you a brief account of what these clauses are about. Okay, so the first one is name clause. As you know, name is a factor with which we identify each other. Everyone is unique by their own name. We identify a person with a name, isn't it? Similarly, company is a legal person and we need to identify a company with a name. So the name clause consists of the name with which the company is to be registered, or we are going to identify a company with a name. So company being a legal person must have a name to establish its identity. It wants to stand out when compared to that of its competitors. The customers need to identify a particular brand with a name. So the first clause of the Memorandum of Association speaks about the name clause, that is the name of the company. So the name is a symbol by which a company personal existence comes. That is, we are able to identify a company with its name. So that is all about the first clause. Now the second clause speaks about the registered office clause, otherwise known as the situation clause. That is the state at which the company is registered, the location, the situation of the company. Again, this particular registered office or the situation clause is important because that determines the domicile of the company. Okay, and the domicile of the company determines the jurisdiction of the company. For instance, I have mentioned earlier, Memorandum of Association need to be stamped. And it need to be stamped according to the stamp duty that exists in the state at which the registered office of the company is situated. So, domicile is important to know the jurisdiction. And registered office is necessary to know that jurisdiction. Similarly, to make communication, we need an address. So, in the registered office clause or the situation clause, it mentions the state at which this particular company is situated or located. That is all about the second clause. Now, the third clause speaks about the object clause. That is the purpose of existence of such a company. For what objective, to satisfy what kind of objective the company came into existence. That is discussed in the third clause, that is the object clause. The object for which the company came into existence, for what purpose we are forming such a company. And that will be mentioned in the third clause. All the main objectives as well as the other objectives, incidental objectives, that will be mentioned in the third clause. Now coming to the fourth clause, that is the liability clause. That determines the liability of the members of the company. That is the nature of liability, whether a limited liability company, whether an unlimited liability company, what kind of company. If it is a limited liability company, whether it is limited by shares or whether it is limited by guarantee, that need to be mentioned. And that will be mentioned in the fourth clause of the Memorandum of Association, and that is the liability clause. Now coming to the fifth clause, that is the capital clause. That speaks about the amount of capital with which the company is registered. So that is all about the capital clause. Now the sixth clause is association clause, otherwise known as subscription clause. That is the number of members who have subscribed towards a memorandum of association. That need to be specified. How many people subscribe towards a memorandum of association? And they need to give such a declaration. So that is mentioned in the subscription clause or association clause. By this particular clause, the memorandum concludes. But if it is an OPC, the company to be registered is a one-person company, as I said earlier, one more clause is added, and that is all about nominee clause or the successor clause. As you know, the name itself denotes one-person company. That is a company which is formed with only one person. In such a case, they need to give the name of the successor or a nominee who will take over the company at the absence or death of the one director or that one person who formed the company. So that is all about the successor or nominee clause. So by the sixth clause, that is the subscription clause, the memorandum concludes. But if it is an OPC, one more clause need to be added, and that is successor or nominee clause. So OPC should state the name of the successor or nominee who will take over the activities of the company at the absence of that one particular person or one director. So these are the different clauses or contents that forms the memorandum of association. You have to remember it in sequence. That is a name clause, the registered office clause, then comes the object clause, liability clause, capital clause, subscription or association clause, and the last one is nominee clause or successor clause. So these are the contents of memorandum of association, or what we call it as the clauses of memorandum of association. In the upcoming session, I will give you a detailed idea regarding what these clauses are. Okay, so stay tuned for a detailed discussion on all these clauses. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.